Hello, my name is Angelica Soria, and I am doing the probabilistic forecasting episode of our Weather Unlocked series, and this is episode number 44. So, if you've ever wondered why we message certain graphics the way we do, this is kind of what this video is going to be about. And I use winter weather as an example through this video so that it's kind of relevant for this time of year. So, let's start out with the introduction. Nearly all of the studies indicate that people make better decisions, have higher trust in information, and/or display a greater understanding of forecast information when shown a probabilistic forecast instead of a deterministic one. So here's some discussion behind that. A deterministic database can give one answer. A probabilistic one can give a spectrum of reasonable solutions across multiple user thresholds. It lets us maximize decision-making value for all types of customers in a consistent and scientific manner. So how do we create effective probabilistic messaging? It needs to be scenario-based, and we have to explain uncertainty and provide context to that. We want to message with words and numbers, but also be concise and limit the amount of numbers, but also paint a picture of what would happen with each scenario. So we try to keep all these things in mind when we are creating graphics for you guys, and not just during winter weather, during severe weather season, but during any impactful weather. We try to keep all these little boxes in mind when we make our forecast discussions and our graphics. So here's the first example that may be familiar to some of you: the evening commute. Predictability usually is high in traffic during rush hour, and it's generally expected to be heavier at those times. Though on certain days such as Fridays or holidays, it may be less predictable due to people adjusting their schedules. So that's the predictability portion of it. Let's jump to the confidence portion of the evening commute. If you've had a lot of experience taking this route, you may feel highly confident that you can apply the predictability and how long it'll take. Though unexpected factors such as inclement weather, construction, or an accident could reduce your confidence in reaching your destination on time, even if the typical rush hour traffic pattern is predictable. So this is just an everyday scenario that kind of gets you thinking of predictability, chances, odds, things like that we think about almost every day here at the Weather Service. Weather forecasts possess no intrinsic value. They only acquire value through their ability to influence the decisions made by users of the forecast. So another cool quote to kind of tie in what this next section is going to be. So how does NWS SGF use probabilistic forecasting? So we're going to dive into, like I said, the example of winter weather. We use something that's called the messaging funnel. And not just in winter weather, again, it's during any high impact weather scenario, but we really rely on it for winter weather. So we use our forecaster confidence in impactful winter weather occurring to inform what type of graphics we'll be putting out to the public and our partners. Typically, the closer we get to an event, the higher our confidence becomes in the event occurring. So the forecasting funnel is on the right here. So it goes from less than 30% all the way greater than 80%. And you go from top to bottom, so from the blue to the red. And for example, the 30% will be 7 days out from winter weather. And the bottom percentage, 80, will be the day of the winter weather event. So here's what it looks like from left to right, from less than 30 to the greater than 80. And here are a few graphics that you may see from across the region. On the left is less than 30% broad brush graphics stating what we know and don't know. 30 to 50%, the green, is the potential graphics showing chances of a certain amount of snow or other winter parameter. The 50 to 80% is the potential graphics or probability of exceedance graphics, and the greater than 80% is low-end, high-end snow ranges, timing, and precipitation type information. And we'll dive into each one here in a second. I know those are kind of small to see, but we'll start out with the less than 30%. Our confidence is this low when we are still 5 to 7 days out from a potential winter event. And this graphic shows our broad areas of possible impacts or just text of what we know and don't know, but it's still too early to show potential snowfall amounts with any reliability. So the next few slides will just be from the Springfield office and our graphics that we use and that you may typically see during a winter weather event. And so I'm sure you all have seen this blue graphic on the right. This is our first look when we, maybe see something coming up the next, like I said, 5 to 7 days. So it's the monitoring storm potential next week graphic that we typically use. Next up is our 30 to 50% portion, and our confidence is in this range when we are 3 to 4 days out. And these graphics show potential using the statistical information to give probability of certain snow amounts from all the models or some other winter weather parameter. and it's still too early to pinpoint potential snow ranges, though we will still create gridded snowfall amounts, which can be accessed on our webpage. So I'm sure you guys have seen this map here on the right as well. This is the probability of travel impacts. We use this a lot just for people who are traveling, or maybe during the holidays, or people travel a lot. It just shows the likelihood of impact, so we'll use this one quite a bit too. Next up is 50 to 80%. Our confidence is typically in the range when we are 1 to 3 days out, and the graphics may show either the potential, like described previously, or if confidence is closer to 80%, we may show an accumulation graphic or a precipitation type graphic for mixed events. But this is when we typically show the probability of greater than a dusting, 1 inch, greater than 2 inches, and so you'll see us put those out on our website, and this is usually when we're 1 to 3 days out. So this is why we kind of hold off on putting out accumulations right away. It's because we still are a few days out, and we just kind of want to show you what we're thinking, whether it's a dusting or 1 inch or it's like 2 to 3 inches. So we'll do the probability of greater than a certain threshold. Lastly is the greater than 80%. Our confidence is typically in this range when we are within 2 days of winter weather. Graphics will show the potential accumulation. This usually utilizes the 25th to 75th percentiles from all the models. So if there's a wide range, the higher the uncertainty is in that area. So if it's about like 3 to 8 inches, that's probably a pretty wide range, so the uncertainty is a bit high. But in this graphic on the right specifically, there's only about 2 inch spread, so 3 to 5, 2 to 4 inches, 2 to 3 inches, so it's only a 1 inch spread. So we were pretty confident in this one going into it. And so other graphics we will put out will discuss timing and then potential snowfall rates and precipitation type. So be on the lookout for those, but I'm sure you guys have seen this one, and this is what we put out, like I said, about 48 hours of the event. So in conclusion, we really try to describe what is expected versus what actually happens. That's what we try to toe the line of. Predictability, it reflects inherent limitations in forecasting certain weather events. It's often influenced by the complexity of the atmospheric conditions, should be assessed from the same from forecaster to forecaster, and it serves as the foundation to a successful forecast. And confidence is shaped by many factors in the forecast scenario, including storm type, setup, and forecaster experience. And levels may differ considerably from one forecaster to another, and given the variability of these factors as well as forecaster bias. So we may vary for different aspects of the forecast, and this is why I try to remind people that the atmosphere acts more like a fluid, and Mother Nature sometimes she does what she wants, and so the fluid it's hard to predict, and we do our best, but things change very quickly and very short notice. So this is kind of an insight on why we do release the graphics that we do, and at the time periods that we do, there is a method to the madness, and we do our best to try to keep you guys safe and give you a heads up as soon as we can. And the communication of forecast information requires a deep understanding of both the atmosphere and human behavior. And the definition of a meteorologist is broadening to include translating forecast elements and their impacts. So this just ties into what I just said. We have to understand the weather, and we have to understand how humans typically react, how much heads up they need for schools, for example, for MoDOT, things like that. So we take all of that into consideration, not just the public, some of our really close partners too that make very important decisions every single day for your guys' safety as well, law enforcement, utility companies. And so now we do more than just translate forecasts in their elements. We have to talk about their impacts of road freezing over, or a flash freeze, or freezing drizzle, which can make the roads slippery, and or like cold weather impacts, saying if it snows and we have a really strong cold front right after it, that snow is going to stick around for a while, like we saw with that 6-inch snow event. So we have to do a lot, and we try to communicate all this stuff through our graphics. And so here's just a little insight on what we think about and take into consideration when we put out our winter weather forecasts, and severe weather, just any high impact weather event. So lastly, I'll leave our contact information up for you guys. We have our social media stuff on the right, we have our phone numbers on the right, and then our email as well. So thanks for listening. I hope you all learned something today.